Welcome back guys, this is JT at X Science, and today we are going to talk again about Planet X, also known as the Nibiru catalyst. Now for those of you who are new to the subject, Planet X is a supposedly hypothetical planet that belongs to our solar system but lies even beyond Pluto. The planet is often associated with the ends of time on Earth, because many sources, from the ancient Sumerian to a woman who claims to have aliens implanted in Winterset, confirmed it. And it is said to be coming in close contact or on collision course with our planet Earth in the early 21st century, which is now. There are increasing indications that Planet X is more than a hypothesis, and it is indeed moving in the precise direction toward the Earth. Many people have long held the belief that governmental bodies such as NASA, the Pentagon, the CIA, and even big companies like Google are aware of this incoming planet. Recently, this belief has gained considerable weight when NASA finally publicly announced that there are mathematical evidence of another planet lurking far beyond our dwarf planet Pluto. NASA said that there had, until then, been no direct evidence, and the claim was only based on observations of gravitational influence on a group of celestial objects that is known to science as the extreme Neptunian objects. These objects orbit our sun and they are beyond Neptune. The thing is, what NASA said wasn't new. Even before Neptune was discovered, astronomers with our modern equipment has already speculated that a massive cosmic body existed beyond Uranus. Such speculations is made upon observations of the very elongated orbits of Uranus. And indeed, when Neptune was discovered, it was said to be too small for its gravity to distort Uranus' orbit that much, and Neptune's orbit itself seemed distorted. In other words, there have long been mathematical evidence, and NASA stated, that Planet X exists. The ancient Sumerians also reported this in their ancient writings, in which they drew 12 planetary objects. 2 of these 12 are the Sun and the Earth Moon, and the 10 left are likely to be the planets of our solar system. In other words, since that time, they already know that there is one more big planet in the system, and so there are 10 in total, not 9. And if we don't count Pluto, which might have also been too small for the Sumerian to notice, there could be even 2, not 1. Planets looking beyond Neptune. And so I'm not convinced that NASA still only have a hypothesis. In fact, they first mentioned the possibility of Planet X in the 1980s and never talk about this again until this report. That is weird to me, and the hypothesis I'm proposing is that they have always known about it, but they let the public know about it one step after they do, in order to prevent chaos, or simply to protect their interest. Anyway, back to Planet X now. It is said that the mysterious planet is at the moment sending waves of charged plasmatic energy particles through our solar system. Our magnetosphere recent data suggests this. The flow of energy causes anomalies in the magnetic activities and affect the magnetic core and flow of the Earth, resulting in catastrophic changes in the planet's climate. And we all know that climate change is real. It's happening without a single doubt, and it's definitely not a hoax invented by China, like Trump said it. Not only climate change, as in storms and droughts, till 1990, there have also been records showing a burdensome rocketing in seismic and volcanic activities. And as I said at the beginnings of the video, big governments are aware of the approaching planet. Russia is very open about it. They recently completed building and updating 5,000 shelters in Moscow. Each of these facilities can accommodate up to 100,000 people, and even though they don't explicitly say what these shelters are built for, all of us can speculate a big, devastating event coming, and the governments want to protect at least part of the populations from the catastrophe as well as its aftermath. The United States is estimated to have at least 150 underground facilities for whatever reason. And according to a leaked official source, there is a whole city under Denver Airport. Guys, we are talking about not a shelter or a base, but a whole entire underground city. As far as I know, the United States is not yet overpopulated to the point where it needs underground city, so there must be something coming, and the cities are to protect the privileged from the catalysm. Also, these facilities are reported to have been started since the 1990s. Coincidentally, when NASA first announced a planetary object exists beyond the known planet. What is weird is that a short time after this announcement, NASA itself denied it and hence all the cover-up's accusation. Of course, this information will not be available all over the internet for fear of social instabilities and economic breakdown. So if you research into this, there will be a lot of versions of information and distortion and made-up story. Meanwhile, it seems that the Vatican hierarchy is maintaining its eyes on the sky with a sophisticated telescope located high in the mountains of Arizona. NASA is also watching. Do you guys know the Hubble telescope? It is publicly known to have the mission of exploring the solar system and the universe at large. However, some people suggest that the true purpose of the multi-billion-dollar Hubble is to observe the inbound Planet X. In the meantime, the secret is kept from the public. NASA has been calling the planet a mathematical hypothesis, while Google Sky has a patch of data sensor in the directions of the Orion Belt, the hypothesized position of Planet X. I think we'll never know until Judgment Days arrive. So how devastating will Nibiru catalysm be? Well, the consensus by many is that when Planet X passes by us, the gravitational and magnetic consequences will be unimaginable. After all, it is estimated to be 10 times bigger than Earth. We will experience cataclysmic climates and seismic events at scales far beyond what we have been going through these recent years. This event will immediately annihilate 2/3 of the world population, while those who survive the initial impact will perish over time because of starvation and exposure to abnormal magnetic and cosmic elements. How many will be saved by the big power shelters, and for how long, is of course unknown to most of us. I think NASA has a very good idea of how this object is coming, and how big a threat it is to our civilizations and all life on Earth. And it is possible that this is not the first time Planet X comes into contact with Earth. Scientists propose that Planet X could take at least 10,000 years to make a full orbit around the Sun. This, combined with the records over the age that we have of lost civilizations like Atlantis or Lemuria, shows that it is very possible that Planet X has devastated the Earth before. The good thing here is that life survived properly multiple times. Now I'd like to go back a bit to the Hubble's telescope. I said before that the Hubble's true purpose might have been to keep an eye for the incoming planetary object. An interview with the Hubble Insider on the 6th of June 2016 from Skywatch Media state that this could really be true, and Planet X might not be a single planet, but a whole planetary system of 7 planets and moons and dust clouds, and the center of it is likely a small sun. This insider told us that he saw this mysterious system through the Hubble. Moments later, the signal got cut off, the data were encrypted, and that was the end of any transmission. Now, please listen to the interview.
Most people aren't aware of it, but there was a scientific storm in America all through the late 50s about this thing out there in space, because the astronomers were all watching it, and that was back when they weren't afraid to talk about it. It was in the science magazines. I mean, I had a subscription to, like, Popular Science, and hell, it was on the front cover of the magazine one day in, like, 1961. And I was really excited when I saw it, because here's this giant red planet on the horizon of the California coast, and a humongous tidal wave coming in towards the coast. And having grew up in the mountains of the Sierras, and this thing in the magazine, it said this tidal wave coming in was going to be at least 3 miles high. And I went in and showed it to everybody in the house, and they laughed, and they said, "Look, it says right here, there's nothing to worry about. It won't be here for another 50 years. Hey, guess what? That 50 years has came and gone. And this baby's out there in the sky. They've been watching it. I watched it. And I can tell you, this thing has got so much trash coming around it. You know how we live in a solar system? We've got 9 planets and a big sun. This thing has got 7 planets and its own sun. The years as it went by and we watched it, it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then finally, about 2008, we could see this thing like it was across the street. And we could see that it was a blazing hot ball of fire, giving out sparkles of red iron oxide dust for thousands of miles in every direction. And you could see the planet circulating it. Now, I'll tell you one thing that I really am nervous about. I think this thing's got a planet like ours circling it. This is its own solar system. We're about to have a solar system come through the middle of our solar system. This can't be good. But unfortunately, it looks as though that's what's going to happen. We were looking at asteroids right close to this thing. There's asteroids that are floating around right near the, that are orbiting the main sun itself. These things appear to be about 500 miles across. This thing looks like a giant red teardrop-shaped dust cloud. And you can see, once if you're able to see it up close like we did, you can see every speck out there. Now, these CIA people that I know say that we're not going to be that close to it when it goes past us. They're saying that in order to attain breakaway speed, when it comes up around the backside of the sun, its speed will at least double, possibly more, which will put it here earlier than everybody is saying it will, and that this thing will probably be about 20 million miles from us when it crosses in front of us. And then as soon as it flips us upside down, we're going to go into its debris field. These CIA guys told me that this pole shift will probably happen from start to finish in around 28 minutes. That doesn't give you a lot of warning. When you see that thing out there in the sky, you're going to have to run as fast as you can to your underground facility, because this is going to happen so fast. Now, see, here's another thing nobody's talking about. You've got this giant iron planet that they say is 47,000 miles across, getting ready to come up past us. And when it starts to approach us, it's going to start and have real serious effects.
So is it a planet or a failed star?
It's not a failed star. You know, I saw this thing up close. It did not look like a failed star. It looked just like our sun.
Right.
Okay. Would you call our sun a failed star?
No. Okay. Well, you had said planet. I wasn't sure if it was like a failed star, brown dwarf, or a full sun. So it's a full sun?
It looks to me like a miniature sun, just like the one we have. The only difference is our sun is giving off flames and stuff, and this one's doing the same thing as it, but it's giving off this red iron oxide cloud of dust around it. And until it got close, we couldn't even tell what was in there. We could see it was hot, and it looked like it was just a dull red when we were first able to discern it through the red cloud. But as it approached, it started to become more apparent that this thing is just orange hot.
Right.
And it's got this enormous, and I mean enormous, at least 50 or 100,000 miles on each side of it, this red dust cloud that goes all the way around it. I know when we were watching it, as it started to make the upward swing to approach behind our sun, it was amazing. The red dust cloud settled down. Instead of being round, it started to settle down into a V, like wings, upside down wings.
Right.
And I thought, boy, I wonder if that's where the ancient Sumerians got the idea this thing had wings, because, you know, centrifugal force is a funny thing. When it comes back up around the planet, when we see it in the sky, my guess is it's going to look like it's got wings, because centrifugal force is going to be pulling the red iron oxide dust and particles out to one side. This thing's going to look like a big red dragon, exactly like all the ancient Sumerians and the Chinese and all the rest of them that had documented this thing's passing before. It didn't look like a white ball or a snow cloud or nothing. It looked like a big red iron oxide dust cloud with a superheated star in the middle of it. And I mean, you know, and that's what we've seen. So, you know, I don't care what anybody else says. There's a possibility. There's more than one thing out there. You know, I watched it through the Hubble Space Telescope, and when this thing looked like it was across the street, the Hubble got cut off and they encrypted it, and that was the end of any transmissions we had to watch. And we know that the Hubble, in order to be in the shadow of the Earth, had to be at an angle, and so that meant it was looking downward, and this thing was coming up underneath of us. And I tell you the honest to God truth, I personally think this thing is real close to us right now. But, you know, that's just my general feeling that, you know, and I'm a pretty psychic guy. I have the feeling that this thing is right close by and that we're going to see it any time. Okay? Because, listen, they've known about this thing forever. And I mean, they've known about it forever. I mean, if I read about it in a science magazine in 1961, that tells you that, I mean, it's only 1,800 years away. How could they not be able to see it when it came around the backside of the last sun and headed this way?
Right, right.
You have to know they've been watching it, because if you know, Carl Sagan was showing stuff that they took with their old telescopes that was billions and billions of miles away. And this thing's only 1,800 years away. Well, and by 1930, it was only 70 years away. You know, we do estimate that this thing, let me give you a thing, maybe you can figure out your own timeline. We estimated that this thing is traveling around 3,500 miles an hour, okay?
Okay.
That was our estimate of its speed. Now, it has been picking up speed, and that's the reason why we think it's going to arrive early, because when it comes around the backside of the sun, it's got to double that speed in order to attain breakaway speed to leave the sun and not wind up orbiting it. It's never orbited the sun in the past that we know of, so that means that it's going to have to attain breakaway speed to head back out into space. Now, you look at the NASA videos, photos, and all this other crap those morons put on the internet. This thing is coming in. It's going to, as soon as it goes around the top of the sun, it's going to go back out into space.
Right.
And it's going to do this really fast. When it goes past us, it's going to go past us so fast that we'll almost have no time to get ready. That's my opinion, but, you know, just drawing it out on paper a few times and thinking about it, and I went, you know, if this thing picks up enough speed to make breakaway speed, then that means it's going to come past us. You know, this thing, according to what I was told, is that this thing is approximately 47,000 miles in diameter, you know, 4 or 5 times the size of the Earth, and it'll come past us, and we won't have a lot of warning, and we won't get to see it in the sky until it's on us. Now, I was told that the poles are not shifting at 42 miles a year, they're shifting at 42 miles a day, and the reason is because this planet is rolling over to face this thing. Now, when it goes by, it's not going to push our North Pole away. It's going to grab our southern pole with its northern pole, and it's going to be like somebody kicked this planet in the ass. That earthquake that it talks about in Revelations when the opening of the sixth seal comes, from what I've been told, that's very accurate, because that's exactly what's going to happen. There's going to be a massive earthquake when it locks onto us. As it goes past us, we're going to follow it right upside down. The oceans are just going to be roaring from pole to pole, as you could well guess they would, because if you take a planet that's 7,000 miles across and roll it upside down in 30 minutes, you're going to have some real serious problems with wind and water. We should be preparing to...
What is up, YouTube? This is JT speaking to you from exile, and today we are going to talk about Mars. Now, for those of you who don't have a lot of ideas on why Mars is such a major topic when it comes to extraterrestrial life, here's a quick Mars Life 101. Mars is in the zone where the temperatures from the Sun is perfectly suited for the existence of liquid water, which is crucial for life, at least the forms of life we currently know. There are actual evidence of rivers on Mars that dries up, as well as currently visible polar ice cap. There are even evidence of fossils of unicellular life on the red planet. But why then has Earth become a planet steaming with life of all shapes and sizes, but Mars ended up as a hell of ice and red dirt? Well, one of the hypotheses is that the planet does not retain enough heat because it does not have enough greenhouse gases. It has cooled down gradually, and over millions of years it has become no longer hospitable for life. But mind you, that is a hypothesis. The lifeless desert on Mars may only be what it looks to the naked eyes. Now, if you remember, in 2017, Google announced an April Fool jokes on Mars, more precisely, on Google Mars. Basically, Google Mars is like Google Maps, but instead of providing with a map of Earth, it gives you an images of Mars from satellites that currently orbit the red planet, and the images is pretty updated. If you search Google Maps for Mars at the coordinates 13.6785 and 34.9832 back around April and May 2017, you will find pictures of a base on Mars with a system of buildings and solar panels. It is sadly no longer on the map, but if you Google Mars by Google April Fool Jokes 2017, you will find that the images immediately. Go on, search for it. I'll give you some time. So what do you think? What a joke, isn't it? Well, I'm not so convinced about that thing being a joke. What I think it is a secret base on Mars, either built by Martians or even humans, and NASA and Google accidentally let it slip, and we were lucky to have seen it before they discover and cover up their mistakes. And many things like me. Why? Let me give you two reasons. First of all, look at the photo again. For your convenience, this time I'll show the photos right in this video, so you don't have to Google it again. Now, look at the system of structure. If this was a joke done by Google with Photoshop, then the one who did it must be exceptionally skilled at using Photoshop. Why? Well, just look at all the details in the photo. The amount and the qualities of the details in this supposed Photoshop photo is simply amazing. All the buildings, the panels, the shadows, the path surrounding and connecting them, all of them, they are just way too realistic to the smallest detail. So if it was true that Google edited this space into the images of Mars, someone was either extremely skilled and dedicated, or simply had a lot of free time. But guys, remember, this is Google we are talking about. Why would Google invest someone this talented and detail-oriented into a joke? Actually, why would they even have time to think about such a joke in the first place, let alone spending God knows how much time and effort into it? It just does not make sense to do such a joke. Secondly, let's hypothesize that Google does really have time to edit a base with all the shadows and dirt roads and solar panels into a random coordinate on Mars. The question is then, why? Why Google Mars? I mean, who uses Google Mars? We only use Google Earth because we need to search for the way from our home to the nearest convenience store. We don't ever need to search roads on Mars. And secondly, why those coordinates? To me, they seem nothing more than a random coordinate, assuming that there are actually people who use Google Mars because, I don't know, they are nerds like you and me who like to spend their free time looking at a ball of red dirt. Anyway, the point that I'm trying to get across here is that Mars is a whole planet, and putting a Photoshop base onto a random positions on a planet is not very attention-catching for a joke. In fact, except for some people who are actually browsing the surface of Mars, and we can tell that number is tiny, most people only knew about this supposed joke months later when Google announced it themselves. So, weird much? The biggest tech giants on the planet had so much free time and human resources that it made a super fine joke on a place where virtually nobody cares to look. Not to mention Mars is steaming with rumors and even actual evidence of life. Also, since Mars is so Earth-like, there are actually a lot of ambitious projects aiming at making it once again hospitable to life. So could this be one of job projects, and the authorities are hiding it from us, but for some reason they accidentally missed one spot and had to come up with this joke to cover up? Maybe as I'm talking to you, dozens of bases are functioning on Mars, transforming the planets to host the rich and the powerful from, I don't know, a future threat that the public is not allowed to know because security reasons. Another possibility is that life on Mars never went completely extinct. They evolved, maybe at a scale much smaller than their counterpart on Earth, but they evolved anyway. And this is one of the solid evidence, and NASA simply do not want people to know about their existence. Or maybe, yet again, the real authorities behind all the presidents and nation states that we see, be it Illuminati or whatever, wanted to pull another social experiment to see how we would react in the face of extraterrestrial life. Remember the Hawaiian incident earlier this year, or the false ballistic missile alert? One of the conspiracy theories about it was also that it was an experiment to see how people would react in the face of unavoidable doom. You can search the channels and learn more about the Hawaii incident if you want, because I have one talk about it. Back to Mars, I repeat once again, I really don't believe that this could be a joke. It's just too pointless and too time-consuming to be a joke, and nobody even knows about it until it was publicly announced that there was a joke on Mars. I have to say this again because it really is unbelievably and obviously pointless.